Ready, set, go. How to get your shot. The first thing necessary is to find a location that you want to shoot. This can be anywhere you find interesting. Start out by exploring your immediate surroundings and branch out later. If you live in the city, scan your neighborhood for interesting things to shoot. If you live in the country, maybe take a walk around in the dark to see if anything catches your eye. Remember that although a location looks interesting to you in the daytime, it may not be something you want to shoot once night falls. Things can change with the drastic shift in light, and you may be less interested in a location once it is dark. Also, realize that things you might have ignored or walked past in the daytime without so much as a glance can suddenly jump out at you once it is dark, so you never know when or where inspiration might strike. Once you find a location that you want to shoot, you need to make sure that your camera has been set to manual and that the flash is off. You usually do not want to use the flash while trying to take a picture at night. It won't give you the results you are looking for unless you are trying to highlight a person. Also, the autofocusing features of many cameras do not work all that well in low light, which is why it is best to focus your shots yourself. Setting your camera to manual will give you control over the ISO number, the aperture, and the shutter speed, and these are necessary for getting those really great night shots. ISO refers to the film speed, even if you are not using a film camera. The default ISO settings on cameras can fluctuate, but many of them come with a setting of about 100 ISO. The camera's ISO determines just how sensitive the image sensor is to available light. For night photography, sometimes a higher ISO is necessary, but you will sacrifice quality for this higher setting. A lower ISO will always result in a better quality picture than a higher one, as higher ISO results in a grainier picture. However, any picture is better than no picture at all, so if you need to use the highest setting on your camera, then that's okay. If you use a tripod or a stable flat surface to prevent camera shake, it is possible to take night photos with a low ISO of 100 or so. If you are holding your camera, you may find you have to bump the number up to around 1600, which can cause graininess in your photos. Shutter speed is important to getting great night photographs. In most cases, you want to change it so that you can get a longer exposure, but it's not always obvious which speed is necessary for each situation. If you want to keep your ISO settings the same as your default settings to prevent graining photos, you'll have to slow down the shutter speed. Just how slow you have to make it can change depending on the conditions of the night. With a digital camera, it's easy to take some test photos to see how much of a shutter delay you need. I like to take a test photo with a shutter speed starting at 10 and going up in increments of 5 until I reach 30. I then examine my samples. This will give me a pretty good idea of just how slow I want my shutter speed to be for any other photos for the night. Some pictures may require even higher shutter speed times, but 30 is usually the highest I need for most locations. Faster shutter speeds won't work with low ISO settings, so if you do not wish to change it, you will have to adjust the ISO setting and make it much higher. Since you are reducing the shutter speed for night photos, it's best to choose a smaller aperture size. There is no perfect formula for this, so testing may be required. Most people agree that an aperture of f8 or f5.6 is good for night photography, depending mostly on the type of lens you are using and the look you are trying to achieve. Once you have your camera the way you want and your tripod set up, if you're using one, you are ready to take your photos. If you are uncertain whether or not your settings are correct or will give you an image that you will like, you can always do a few test photos with or without the tripod. This has the added bonus of identifying possible problems that could ruin your actual photos before you snap them. They will give you a general feel for how your pictures turn out, and you can proceed from there. Go out and start shooting already. Night photography is all about capturing the magic that is all around us when the sun goes down. With that in mind, the most important things you need when starting down this path are imagination and a sense of wonder. Any and every location has the potential to be a subject of interest to the right photographer. Find things that inspire you, that leave you speechless when you see them, that make you want to capture the moment and share it with others. Do not limit yourself to one type of picture unless you really want to. Try photographing cityscapes, forested areas, dark alleys, abandoned industrial sites. The list goes on and on. The sky is the limit. Let your imagination soar, and you will end up with some fantastic shots that anyone would be proud of. Remember that you do not need to be a professional to dive into this world of mystery and intrigue. Anyone can learn to take spectacular pictures after the sun goes down. It just takes some practice, decent equipment, and imagination, and patience, and patience, and patience.